Okay, so here we are again. Um, hmm, yeah, I've just put into the chat the link to come and join me. It's just me this week. um, yeah, it's just me this week. I'm doing a fast, so I thought I would just take a look at what's going on during this fast. And today, yeah, it's been an interesting day. Interesting day today. Basically I started yesterday. I just had some nuts and coffee, and I had a little bit of pie in the evening. Um, so today it's just been water and tea and a bit of this electrolytes. And the reason I'm doing it is so that I can. I know I've got a few little habits, a few sort of addiction habits. When I was smoking, I smoked for like 25 years. So when I did quit a couple of years ago, I started chewing gum quite a lot, and so I've been chewing a lot of gum, and probably that's what I'll look at tonight in terms of self inquiry. But there's that, and just this getting up and going to the fridge all the time. It's getting a bit boring, I guess. Um, and there's supposed to be some benefits of fasting. You get a couple of days of using the energy of the body, and I don't know, you can like check it out yourself, I guess. um, the main thing for me was just out of curiosity and to see how it can work in with self-inquiry, because self-inquiry can be used for quite a lot of things. um, so anyway, the day's been pretty good. Pretty good. I'm not that hungry, which is good. I've having a few like images of cravings, let's say, through the day. And especially when I get up to or go outside and have a pee, um, I walk past this little bowl of chewing gum, and and I and that's when the urge comes. And generally, I just go with it. But now that I'm doing the fast, it's made me stop and look a little bit deeper, and so that's probably what I'm going to do it on today. Um, Okay, and something else I've noticed, which has been quite strange, is the body. The sense of the body has been very strong today. I've been really, really aware of what's been happening inside of the body, and on a different level than usual. So, um, so I'm not sure what that's about, but it's been interesting nonetheless. And I think over the coming days I'll investigate this. I'll investigate the idea of the fast, and I didn't really do any research to do it. Um, but I might look at continuing it, continuing some form of it. But for now, it's just today, tomorrow, and Thursday, and the Wednesday is probably going to be the hardest one, I would say, and then the Thursday evening is probably going to be hard too. But okay, but anyway, I'm talking to myself here a bit, so let's start some self inquiry. And yeah, I was a little bit. I had the thought that I'd be a bit more hungry and be craving things a bit more, but they've just been these like little flashes of craving. And if you've never really taken the time to stop and have a look at what happens when the craving happens, um, usually the way it goes is that an image flashes up in the mind, or a thought flashes up in the mind, and then along this comes a sensation, and the thought's very quick, and it's like a full cycle actually. So you see the thought of something, and um, and then there's some relation to the sense of sensation that happens in the body. And if you miss the image, then the process to go and do the addiction's already happened. It's almost like you've already made that agreement to go and do it, and then it's just a matter of time before you go and do it. So if you do have any addictions yourself, it's start looking out for that image that comes in the mind, and then once you can see it, then you can grab it and you can investigate it a little bit more. But I'll show you that as we go. Yeah, so I'm probably going to look at this chewing gum today, and the method I'm using is a direct form of self-inquiry. So it comes from this thing called the Living Inquiries. And if you want any further information, just send me a message. I can. It's defunct now, but it's easy enough to see. And yeah, I guess I'm just waiting for this last little bit to see if anyone's going to come and join me before I start. Again, if you just look in the chat, it'll show you what the link is, and yeah, so that's it there. And it's saying that it can't actually go to some channels. So if for some reason you're unable to find it, oh, there it is. It's just on Twitch and YouTube. So yeah, you can either just copy that code and put it into the thing, or go over to the YouTube channel and you can find where the link is there in the chat or in the thing. But I think I'll just get started. So with addictions, what you want to do is, if you're not in the heart of it, you bring it in, you introduce it in. And I've been aware this day, as I've been walking past this chewing gum bowl, of seeing it in my mind and feeling the impetus or the impulse to take a gum on the way outside. And if you're like a smoker or something, it used to be for me the colored packet, that would be the image that would trigger everything. I think it's other senses as well. So maybe you get a little taste of something in your mouth, or there's something to do with the sound of maybe the packet or opening up the fridge or something like that. You need to find this for yourself. You need to find it for yourself as well. So whatever the addiction is, as it's coming on, just start to be aware of what's happening in the mind and what's happening in the body. And maybe you can do as I do too, where you sort of fast from it for a little bit of time, so it's a bit more present and you can grab it a bit easier. So when I bring into mind this image of this gum, and it's actually an image of where the gum is. It's in the bowl. I see it in my mind. And when I look at that image, yeah, there's a really strong urge to go over and pick the gum out. And I'm feeling that sensation-wise. I feel that sort of that need or that urge in the middle of the chest. And it comes with this mechanical kind of action where I'm picking it out of the bowl. And you can sort of run through this a couple of times. So part of it would be to let it play through in the mind, so that you take the gum into the mouth. And I see all of that happening in my mind. and I feel the texture of the gum on the lips through the image, which is interesting. The body reacts to the mind as if it's real. So when I see the image of putting the gum on the lips, I feel it in my body. I feel that part of that ritual, and then the next part is the taste. I feel the sweetness in the mouth, and it's interesting. I can feel this subsiding of that original impulse to take the gum. I feel it subsiding when it gets to that stage of of the of the cycle. So yeah, so it's interesting because you can go through the addiction, you can go through the thing itself, you can be satiated just by going through it in the mind. It doesn't stop it necessarily from coming up again, but it's really interesting to see that that's the case, that it can be satiated through the mind. Um, so what I'm doing now is going into the sensation of it, that impulse that was here, or the area of it. And again, I'm bringing up that image in my mind of the bowl and the gum in the bowl. And this time I'm just holding that image and noticing how it feels in the body, noticing that impulse to take the gum. And because it's sort of two forms of suffering that's happening here. One is that there's this desire to get something, and in this case it's the relaxation of the need, the impulse, and that feeling of sweetness in the mouth, maybe that sense of it on the lips. So that's part of the addiction. Part of the suffering too, I would say, is the need to get somewhere. And then also maybe there's a need of something that's here already that I'm wanting to get away from. And you can only sort of see that as you move through this sequence yourself. Um, so again, I see that image. It's still there, um, and I'm noticing that impulse to take that thing. And so I'm just letting that image kind of move through and do the things it wants to do, so I can come down and see what else is happening in this feeling. And as I move to the feeling, immediately I notice a sense of agitation and fear, which is interesting. And I see that as an image in my mind of, like moving between things in an agitated kind of fashion. And I notice a in lower sense in the body, a lower sense underneath that feeling of need is a sense of fear. It's coming into the body. And we've got a word for this too, or we've got words for this type of action, and it's like an anxiety, basically. Anxiety, or my granddad would always say, "I've got ants in my pants." Um, and that image and that movement, the action that stems from all of this, is a way of. It's kind of an escape in a way. It's a way of trying to get away from the feeling, looking for something to come in and replace that feeling of anxiety or fear. And it's a low level thing too, something that might be just running throughout the day. It might be just brought in that particular moment of getting up and moving, or um, I don't know. We'll see as we go. And so that slows down as well. Like before, the image of the gum, taking the gum, sort of slowed down and petered out, and then that image of moving around in the kitchen primarily between the fridge and the gum and the different places. If I was smoking, it would be outside. That just sort of slows down and sinks down, and the seeing of what it is, reduces it or relieves it, and I come back down into the sensation again. And it just comes very naturally and gently as a question of, what am I afraid of? What am I afraid to do if I don't have those things that take the attention? And I notice that there's an image of me sitting, and all of the energy and all of the attention is just sinking back into this sensation. A lot of the doings I'm doing is about coming up and out of it. It's kind of the way that we escape. There's only a few places you can escape from. You can escape outside of yourself. You can escape up into the mind, which is another place. But that's about it, really. You can distract yourself. You can, try and move the attention away. But when those things settle down, it's that whole story of, the muddy water that's agitated and all the mud's there, but when it slowly starts to settle down, then you can actually start to see what's going on. Maybe this story is a little bit of an escape as well, because as I slowly just start to come into this sensation, it's stronger, and I can see it's tied a little bit to hunger, the thought of hunger. Yeah, I mean, I know this of myself. I don't give myself enough time to be feeling what's going on in the body. There's always this constant movement to do. And it's in response to something that's happening, I would say, some of the time, for me anyway. Yeah, so it's like this settling into this sensation, very slow movement. Other sensations are coming in. I feel something up in the head. And that's actually, this is what's bringing the attention in at the moment. So I see the image of my head, and okay, and then there's this question of, am I suffering because of this? And there's a response to that. I feel that as a response in the body, and then a response in the image. So I know that there's something here. And it opens up all down here from the sensation up here, which was separate, down into the sensation lower in the belly. I'm a little bit afraid that this microphone's gonna shit itself. Let's see about that. Hopefully you can hear. Yeah, it's all opening up now. And this story of the Buddha comes into my mind, about him just sitting down and going, hey, I'm not going to move from here until I know the truth. Oh. That he was doing all of this doings beforehand, doing, trying to be aesthetic and trying to be this and trying to be that. But in the end, he had to just sit down and just be, and also maybe make the commitment to sit down and just be. Because a strong thought that comes up in self-inquiry a lot is, with suffering is that, oh, this is going to last forever. Mm. Okay, so again, it comes in this question, what am I afraid of? And it really affects the sensation. Okay, and then the question actually like reforms, and it becomes, what would happen if I just sat here? If I didn't get up and take those escapes, take the gum and take the fridge and the smoking, and what am I afraid of that might happen if I just sit here? And there's this kind of response in my mind that, mm, okay, it's the other side of this, right? So this escape happens in two ways. It's an outward escape. I'm going to get away from something. I'm going to create a space. Or there's this inward escape that happens where it's an inward form of force, or manipulation, or control, or you know intellectualizing, and that part of this is coming in, that I see the image of me looking down at the sensation and trying to, control it and hold it and understand it. Um, and then the question comes: what's going to happen if I can't do those things? Where is this going? And okay, it's interesting. I see in my mind that I turn more towards it out of curiosity, out of this sensation, out of curiosity rather than manipulation and fear. And and that actually brings me more into the body, more kind of one with the feeling. So it's not me and the feeling, or me and the feeling. It's just the, like, oneness, or there's no gap here, there's no separation here. So it also means there's no suffering here. Yeah, and as I sit with the sensation, it's moving still a little bit. I still have this little sense of, um, some meaning being attached to it. It's just a little bit at the back. It's not so strong, but let's see what happens when I stay with it a little bit. So I'm feeling into the sensation. It's very localized. It feels like a big circle, or sphere in the middle of the belly, and it's just going in and then moving out. And I notice quite a strong sensation up in the mind, or in the head. Okay, so like, as we move through, like, as the attention starts to sink back inwards to the thing that we're afraid of, or the thing that we don't want to feel, um, and insight arises and movement happens. What we want to do is we want to revisit these addictions, these original thoughts and, um, images. So we're seeing if there's still the tie that's there, because it seems like on one level that gum being there is sort of saying to me, hey, you need to go and eat it. But the gum itself is not doing anything. There's something else happening. And then with the image in my mind that sets off the feelings and everything, I can see in my mind it's the same now with the image. I bring the image back in, and I see that, it's doesn't have anything. It's the same as if I'm just looking at the gum with my eyes. It doesn't have any a command. It doesn't have any. It doesn't have anything intrinsic in itself that says I need to go and eat it, right? Because that's what happens with addiction. There's this feeling of not being able to not do something, not being able to engage in it. And so we're looking at the different levels of it to see where that engagement actually is. Where is it exactly that's that's commanding us, that's telling us that we need to engage. So I'm looking. I can easily I can see in my mind that just seeing it with my eyes, there's nothing there that tells me there's something else that's happening. And then when I see the image of it in my mind, or I see the word gum, or I love some gum at the moment, yeah, I get a bit of salivation that happens in the mouth. Um, yeah, and so I can let that. I can just let that move through. Is that the thing? Okay, so it's staying a bit longer. So let's see. So that image of the gum here and eating the gum, it's bringing some sensation into the mouth. So then it comes, and then what? What purpose does this have? Mm. Okay, and then another layer actually comes up with that image. The mouth falls away, and then there's a sensation in the belly that comes by taking that, hearing that, taking off a couple of pieces of gum. There, and okay, again. So what happens is the thought of the gum satiates that sensation, makes the sensation relax, and I see in my mind the image of taking the gum again. It goes down the throat, and it actually falls directly into that sensation, which is interesting. So I let the part of the image fall away with the gum itself, because it's the act of coming down in the image and touching that sensation, and the sensation just starts to sort of pulse there in the belly. Um, Yeah, okay. And so in this case, it's the eating of the gum is an act of it's an act of bringing my attention to this sensation. Okay, so what's happening at the sensation? I feel like it spreads out and goes down the leg a little bit. So I'm giving this sensation a bit of space. I'm noticing what's around it. I'm noticing what my reaction or my relationship is to it, because there's a sense of separation that's happening here. There's some suffering that's happening. Wow. I say it like that because often we don't recognize that we're suffering unless it's, intense. It's some intense suffering. But a lot of the time, a lot of life is suffering, which is interesting. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm sitting there, I'm feeling this sensation. I'm noticing the different sort of tendrils of it in the body, and I'm just slowly looking at what's happening in my mind, what's coming up out of the sensation, or connected to the sensation. Okay, and what I like how that coalesces is it comes back in and it forms as a sense of me up here in the head, in the shoulders, and the sensation and the gap that's there. And when that gap occurs, then there's the possibility of the movement, which is suffering, right? The movement of I want to move away or I want to move towards, I want to do something. So the gap, the space is big enough now for the sense of me and the sense of this sensation. Yeah, and that I mean that in itself just it takes that line away, and the feeling instead of being in two places in the body, it becomes again a one place in the body. I feel the whole body at once. Mm. And then the sensation moves into another part, and it's a bit of an empty part. Maybe it's the belly or the stomach. It's a feeling of being empty or emptiness. Mm. Yeah, and so I notice how taking things fills that gap and stops that sense of emptiness from being there, a feeling of emptiness. So I'm just kind of sitting in that experience of emptiness. I'm aware that it's just the normal experience of everything, a sensation in the body, thought in the mind that gives it meaning. And yeah, and I just sit here with that emptiness. So there's a little response there. There's a little feeling of um, melancholy that comes with it. You see that in the mind. I know it's a little bit of an escape, but I'm just going to sit with it anyway. And it's to do with activity. You know, that there's movement, whereas in the emptiness, it's there's no movement except for what I would put into it, what I would bring to it. Mm. Okay, so it's interesting now. Everything's just like just gotten very very still. Mm. Yeah, what was emptiness is not emptiness anymore. There was an image on top of it that made it emptiness, and that image faded away. Um, and and there's just a warmth now, which is interesting. I'm gonna like come back again to that original image of the gum, taking the gum. Yeah, it's still got a little bit of something in it. In my mind, I pick it up in my hand, and I can still feel a little response in the body, in the jaw, saliva, type of thing. So I'm just sitting up here now, still aware of what's happening down below, um, but I'm bringing a bit of attention up here. And the question just comes over the back of, what's this about? What's this actually about? And I see the image of me responding to the sensation and the ah, like the anticipation of the gum. Yeah, okay, and there's a little bit more still in the chewing of the gum. So I noticed that part of it, that crunch, first couple of crunches, and the release of the sugar. Mm. Yeah, and then it drops down into the sensation again, sort of around the belly button. Okay, and then it comes in as like, well, what is this giving me? What is the sugar and this thing giving me in this moment? Mm. It's a little bit hard to explain, but there's a duality to it. It's allowing me to put some attention there, but not full attention there. And as I sit with the sensation, and it just starts to kind of open up, and I get bigger. Before it was quite contracted, and that was part of the addiction, part of the. It's a little bit hard to explain. And then that, like, as I feel this, and it starts to just expand out like this, it comes up and affects the face and the jaw. And I see some images again of kind of eating. Mm. Yeah, so now it's all just different sensations that are happening through the throat and the eyebrows. Um, and the shoulders, the arms. And then it just regenerates again. The image comes in again and sets off another chain of feeling through that sensation. What about if we go and have some more gum? So ideally, the end of this is where you can see the image of the gum, and it doesn't produce anything. It doesn't contain anything. It's not connected to the sensation, and whatever that need was, whatever was happening, at the core of it in the body, sensation wise, is is unfolded or um, I don't know. It's like doesn't have the same. It's not the same thing. Basically, it's not the same impulse anymore. And so you need to go through it a couple of times, especially if you've got quite a like long a long habit. I can see even now in my mind the smoke. The idea of the smoking was the same thing. It would go down and I don't know, energetically or physically, it would touch this lower part and it fulfills both sides of the suffering because it's the escape outward by feeling up here, by being outside and away from down here, but then it also goes in and touches down there, so it doesn't fully allow the sensation to not be noticed. Again, it's getting a bit hard to explain. It's coming through quite quickly as insight in my mind, but it's really something that has to be experienced. Yeah, yeah. I think I'm like getting pretty close to just leaving it there. I'm sure that I'll have more tomorrow in tomorrow's session, and maybe it'll be a different like addiction, a different form of something. But that felt quite intense actually. Mm. Okay, well, hopefully this shows as well that there's a bit more to addiction than there's a bit more to overcoming it too. I think than just willpower. It's so easy to put something else in its place and not address the underlying situation. Um, yeah, but anyway, yeah, there's still this movement of sensation in the stomach now. It's sort of coming out towards the back. But I'll just sit here now and feel this a little bit and wait to go and have a pee and see what the feeling is when I walk past the gum. But hey, thank you if you are watching this day one. So yeah, yeah, day one. So let's see what happens tomorrow. Um, if you want to look at this with yourself at all, I'm happy to go through something with you, friends and family at the moment anyway. Um, but I would suggest just start getting used to a bit more conscious and aware of what's happening when the impulse arises and how that feels in the body, what the thought is or the image is that comes. I was so shocked when I first saw the image of when I was smoking, the packet just flicks into the mind really quickly, and the whole thing just cascades after that. But if you know it's there and you can take the time to look for it, then you can investigate it a little bit more. But I think I'm going to call it for the night. So, thank you. See you later.